Call the meeting to order. We are all present this evening, all 7 of us. The invocation this evening will be given by David Burpo. He is with the World Harvest Church. And Rob Camp, how about leading us in the pledge after that?
Let us pray. Father, we come before you today, and I come before you as a resident of this great city, Enid, and as a pastor. Father, I thank you for these men and women who so graciously decided to give of their time. Thank you that they have answered the call to serve. Father, I pray that you'd lead and guide them to make the decisions that you have inspired them to make, and bless them for their service on our behalf. In the most blessed name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Call me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular session of July the 2nd, 2013.
Motion to approve.
I will second that.
Motion by Ron, motion by Mike. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 5, awards, presentations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
Good evening. My name is Jared Free with the Enid Animal Control. With me I have Lucy. Lucy is about a 3-month-old Australian Shepherd mix. She's still a little puppy, but we would like to get Lucy a home. She becomes available tomorrow. If you want to come out and adopt her, or have somebody that you know that wants a dog, if you want to come out and get Lucy and have somebody else do it, she really needs a good home because she's a really good dog, and she's really calm right now. She was playful just a little while ago, so I guess she wore her energy out. But we have many other animals at the animal shelter. If y'all feel free to come in and take a look and spread the word, we do adopt. We are open on weekends as well, 12 to 3. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Item 6, hearings. Item 6.1, there are none. Item 7, community development, there are none. Item 8, administration. Item 8.1, consider a resolution amending the 2013-2014 budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $12,610,286.34 to increase the 2013-2014 appropriated amounts for prior year encumbrances outstanding as of June 30, 2013 for the city of Enid, Oklahoma.
Mayor and Commissioners, what this item is an annual item that we bring to you for items that were previously encumbered in the prior budget year and were not completed. Most of these items were not completed, but were financially liable for, or committed to, I guess, if you will. Most of these dollar amounts of this $12.6 million is tied up in capital projects. I attached an encumbrance list to that agenda item, so hopefully you had a chance to look at it. But just briefly, one of the biggest, the biggest items, $4.9 million is still encumbered in the capital improvement fund. A lot of that for items like the Renaissance Project and other capital projects going on. $3.6 million is encumbered in water capital improvement. The largest amount of that is in the water tower project that is ongoing. And then several other funds, general funds, $69,000, street and alley, $302,000, EMA, $539,000, street improvement fund, $219,000, $955,000 in stormwater, and those were the largest encumbrance amounts in various funds. For a complete listing, you should have this encumbrance list on in your packet. This is an item that we have to do every year. These things you All of these items that were more than $50,000, you would have already have approved previous year. Items less than $50,000, we can still encumber. Staff can by going out and getting quotes, following the procedures manual that you guys have approved via resolution. Again, we do this every year. The last 2 years, this is significantly lower than the last 2 years. Last year we rolled over $34 million in encumbrances. The year before was about $45 million. So you can see we're coming to the end of completing a lot of big projects, primarily the sewer plant and the Renaissance Downtown project.
I make a motion to approve.
Oh, yeah. I got one
Have a
thing.
motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second. Any
My turn.
comments or questions? You're up.
I just wanted to add, in study session, seemed to be the commission's desire to pull 9.1. If your desire is to continue in that manner to pull 9.1, that $98,346.82 would need to be added back into this amount to roll over the encumbrance.
I'll make that amendment to my motion.
Yes, and that total amount, if you wanted it, was $12,708,633.16. Perfect example, 9.1 of how rollovers work.
Just a minute. Did you get all of that? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Gerald.
That was really it. I was just following up on what the assistant city manager said. Any questions?
Second.
We have a motion by Ron, a second motion by Mike. Who made the second?
I second it. Mike made the motion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8.2, consider a resolution amending the 2013-2014 airport fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $340,000 to increase the 2013-2014 appropriated amounts for the airport department. Gerald, is that you?
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, my part in this is just simply to explain that the resolution, if you choose to go forward, the resolution increases, appropriates more money to do this from the airport fund, of which we would transfer from the Enid Economic Development Authority, where it's already set up to do. And the exact specifics of the hangar and all that, I'm going to let Ono explain that, if you want to hear that right now before you vote on the next two items.
Sure. Oh, no?
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, Mrs. Assistant City Manager, I'm going to cover some of the items you've seen before, just kind of a review of the hangar that we're looking at purchasing, and then talk about the appraisal. Large hangar. As you can see, a lot of space in the inside, 10,000 square feet. As far as hangars go, it'd be about the second largest one out at Woodring. There's a lot of office space inside, if you recall. Re-renovated, new carpeting, a lot of paneling and everything in there. It looks pretty good, although the furniture right now is not in there. Just kind of a rundown. It's, like I said, it's 10,000 square feet, built in '83. It is heated. That's a key thing. Aircraft looking for a transient hangar during the wintertime, like a heated hangar. It would be the only one we have. The door is pretty good size, 60 by 18, 4,000 square feet of office space, including 3 baths, one of them which is a full bath. And then it's overall in pretty good condition. The owner's asking $335,000. That's essentially his cost. Purchased in 2009 for $168,000, and he's put $165,000 of renovations and improvements. We took this to an appraiser in Oklahoma City, Don Wade, who looked at it in great detail, and he came up basically with 2 numbers. He looked at it from an income approach, in other words, an entrepreneur buying it from outside and wanting to make a profit. And the other side would be from a corporate a corporation with a jet. They want office space, they want the space for the aircraft, and so there's two different answers, if you will. Looking at it from this point of view, purely a monetary return at today's rental rates of 14 cents a square foot, and including a 10% vacancy rate, and $2,800 a year for maintenance, and the net income would be about $23,800. If you look at that net income to pay off the loan or however you got the money, it would pay off in 10 years. From our perspective, looking at the dollar amount that's being asked for the hangar, if we took 14 years, that would pay that off using the methodology that the appraiser came up with, and then after 20 years, it would yield quite a bit higher number there as well. Looking at it from a sales comparison or a cost, sales comparison, many of the hangars that are similar in similar locations, similar type locations throughout this area of the country. Looking at also from a replacement cost point of view, if we were to build this hangar today and then depreciate it by 30 years, what would we come up with? And he came up with $380,000. This is what he believes a corporation would want to pay for this. And we look at it from 2 points of view, as an investment or as a value to the city. As an investment, it would pay back using his methodology in about 14 years. Afterwards, it becomes a cash source, if you will, for continuing the airport. As a capital asset, it's a good addition to the city-owned hangars. We have 4 corporations out there right now. 2 of those have hangars that they own, and 2 of them we own. And there's a lot of similarities between them: large hangar space, office space, bathrooms inside. As a capital asset, it would be a really significant increase to the capital outlays that we have out there at the airport. And we believe it would help attract businesses to the area. I get a call every few months from the Enid Regional Development Authority asking me questions like length of runway, if a aerospace industry wants to come in there and they want this much space, can you hangar some of their airplanes? What sort of things do we have to offer to them? And I even got a call last week from them on that specifics. And I got to think that once we get the runway extended to 8,000 feet, we'll get more of those calls. There's a lot of uses for the hangar out there at Woodring. Like I said, as a corporate, as a hangar for multiple aircraft, I can put 4 aircraft in there as soon as we buy it. I've got 3 aircraft that belong to 1 guy, 1 aircraft that's in the joint use hangar waiting for a hangar to bed down. And so I think I can occupy it immediately there. Using the office space and storage space, I've gotten an inquiry on that. I don't know how serious it is, but people are asking the questions as well. And sheltering transient aircraft. When you need a hangar and when there's a storm coming, you never have enough hangar space. We actually have hangared at least 1 Vance aircraft in there in the last few months because we just ran out of space in the joint use hangar. And a heated hangar, as I mentioned earlier, is a huge commodity for a transient during the winter time. If you're thinking, if I put these 4 aircraft in there, am I going to be able to put transients in there? Yes, I've already talked with one of the guys that owns 3 of the aircraft, and I told them that in the rental agreement, I want to state that if I get in a pinch and I need more room, can I use it? And he said yes. So that was nice. It's been used as a flying training facility in the past. You can put several small aircraft in there. There's plenty of office space for simulators, briefing rooms, and that sort of thing as well. And as an assembly building for small experimental aircraft, a question has been raised in the past for we have the space for that, and right now we would. So in essence, it is an investment. It would return money after several years, and then it would add as an asset out there at Vance Airport at Woodring.
Oh, no, how long has that hangar been for sale or available?
I think about 1.5 years.
And in that time, have there been any corporations seriously looking at it?
I know there have because other people have told me, but I just don't know what the dealings were between.
Nobody's serious enough to actually buy it.
I know there's been some offers, but I don't really know how high they've been.
I think it's a great hangar. I just object to the price. I mean, that's kind of like the doctor price on that building, if you ask me. I mean, he paid $168,000 for it in 2009, which was kind of at the beginning of the real estate decline, tail end of it. He's got $165,000 in it. I don't have a personal investment anywhere that I can buy something for, put money in, and get every dime of it back. I mean, that's just, not even Harold Hamm gets that price. I think it's a beautiful hangar, and I'd love for the city to own it. My only objection is that we're just priced too high. If we have to pay that, you know, we have to pay that. But I don't know what the negotiations have been, if we've tried to get lower offers across on the deal, but I'd be willing to gamble if we sit on our while that price would come down.
I don't know that the city needs to be in the hangar business. I mean, we've got the joint use hangar, which I think plays a tremendous part in what we can do out there. But I just personally can't see spending that money on a hangar, you know, and hoping that we'll recoup our costs in 14 years.
Oh no, if we buy it, you can use it tomorrow.
Yes,
more or
I can
less.
put 4
You can
aircraft
put-
in it right away.
At 4 aircraft, are we breaking even? If we kept 4 aircraft in there, no. How many? What do we need to be at the break-even point on
Well,
this?
we need the office space filled as well.
Okay.
But you've had inquiries about that too, right?
Yes, I've had one.
When would the runway extension is finished, do you think that will have any significant impact on the demand for this specific facility?
I think it will have an impact. I can't tell you how much.
Sure.
Did the previous owner take all the furniture and fixtures out of the office space?
Most all of it. There's a large conference table that's still up there, and there's like a wet bar in one room.
Keep all that. and then we-
He belonged to him.
Yeah.
What's the current occupancy rate of the hangar space at the airport?
I've got 1 or 2 small hangars that are empty. That's it.
What percentage
And
of?
those, if I can explain it,
Sorry.
those hangars are what we call wet hangars. The way they were built a long time ago, they're portable hangars. They were put on a ramp area that's flat, and when it rains, the water comes in, and a lot of guys don't like it. That's why that other aircraft is in the joint use hangar. I'm sorry.
How much of the hangar space at the airport does the city currently already own? Don't we have the majority of it?
Yes, the overwhelming majority. There are about 20 plus 1 hangars that are privately owned out there. We own 88. We, the city. Some are a couple of them are real large, and then all the way down to the small ones.
Ben touched on what I look at, and it's a little different with the extension of the runway and the people that we have coming into Enid to build a canola plant and to build a coke nitrogen plant. We've got a lot of possibilities coming in the future. I have no problems with purchasing the hangar.
But on the
I think it's a good thing for the long.
but on the backside of that, those corporations might want to buy the hangar.
Well,
Sell it to them.
sell it to them.
I know we can sell it,
I
Rodney.
don't know if there's a bigger hurry to buy this because it's there. It's not going nowhere. Someone buys it, some corporation, great. It sits there 2 or 3 years. Might buy for $250. You've already made money, but I have to make payments. Buy it cheaper. You don't have to have it rented out. I just don't know. We already got a 30-year-old building. It's going to be 50 years old by the time it's paid off.
Where are you putting the aircraft now that you could use that for?
There are actually in other hangars. There one individual has 3 aircraft and 3 different hangars. He'd like to consolidate them, and then I could pull a couple aircraft out of the wet hangars and put them in there. There's a few people.
So we actually have a need for the extra space.
We do.
Rodney, we're flying airplanes that advanced that are probably 40 years old.
The only issue with having
45? Okay.
The only issue with having just available empty space like that is that impacts the numbers, because now we have unrevenue generating square footage sitting out there that we can use on any moment's notice for someone who comes in, which I think is a great value, but that pushes the payout well beyond 14 years. Now we're looking at closer to a 20. And when I ran the numbers and said, would I buy this building myself? I mean, if I were doing this on my own, and my price based on what I see in numbers up there is somewhere between 250 and 275, and I think I'm all for it, just not for it at 335.
Well, I think we have a little bit of a gamble here. I mean, if we do decide to purchase this, we are making the assumption that, one, that Ono can make use of it, and two, that the demand for hangar space out of the airport or some other space out of the airport will increase. I think it's, certainly not a safe bet, but it is, I think, a bet worth taking. I'd move we approve this resolution. We're on 8.2 at this point.
Second that.
Okay.
Will it
All
work?
this, all 8.2 is doing is moving the $340,000 into the budget in case we approve it. If we don't approve it, then the 340 doesn't get moved.
Yes, that is correct. The actual purchase item, I think, is 8.3.
And to me, my last thought is the people coming in to use that hangar, or the people that will want to use the hangar, are basically people coming into Enid that supply jobs.
My personal preference would be to have this item brought back to us in about 6 months and take a look at it again. That would, rather than act on it now. I would like to see it percolate a little bit longer.
Will it work with just airplanes, or the office has to be rented out also? Or maybe you've already answered that.
I'm not sure what you mean.
If you never get the office space rented out, will it still,
Yeah, you
Carrie
can use it
uses
for
it.
either.
Can I still use it?
no, will it still pay?
Over a longer period of time.
That's not
The $23,800 is figured full occupancy.
We gambled on the Homeland building too.
Not a great example there.
Sure.
Yeah. This is a much cheaper, this is a relatively cheaper example.
Gamble's a gamble.
I just think it's still, it's going to be there. It's not going nowhere. Not too many people need a hangar.
I mean, it's an opportunity for us to use this at some point. Either we use it and maybe we break even, maybe we lose a little bit, but we also have this opportunity to have this big facility, which is relatively unique, at hand to, as some kind of economic incentive in the future, to try to entice someone to come in. And if in the long term, our worst case scenario is over 15 years, we're losing, $100,000 on it. But on the other hand, if it goes well, we have this big economic incentive token to wave under someone's nose. I think that's a gamble we're taking. So I think we have a motion and a second.
The motion in the second is just to move it in case we approve it.
Sure, but we
But
have to
do
check
this
that
first.
box before we move on to the next one.
That's exactly right. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second to move the 340. Please cast your vote. Motion is defeated, 4-3. Do we even need to go to 8.3?
There's no funding. I guess you address it, but there's no funding.
We have one person to sign up to speak on item 8.3. Do we need to? Roy Camp, you're signed up to speak. State your name and address, please.
Roy Camp, 2445 Sherwood Drive, Enid, Oklahoma. And since 8.2 did not pass, I can come back, when the hangar purchase is revisited. I am here to speak for it, but I could also defer that until that question is addressed by the council.
If it is all right, I wouldn't mind hearing your reasonings anyway.
I'm a member of the airport board, and I've been associated with Woodring Airport since about 1980. Northwest Aero was a aircraft repair facility that was housed in this hangar for many years at the airport. Yingling Aircraft Services is located at Mid-Continent Airport in Wichita. They are the world's largest distributor of Cessna parts. They're one of the top 3 Cessna repair stations for all Cessna aircraft. 6 or 8 years ago, they were wanting to expand their facilities, and because of the costs at Wichita, construction and costs of just being on the airport, they came to look at Enid. And this hangar was the only hangar that they thought they could use. They engaged in discussions with Northwest Aero that I wasn't part of, but in the end, Northwest Aero decided not to cease operation, and Yingling left the airport, did not come back. I know of 2 other opportunities in the last 15 years of significant aviation businesses wanting to come that this hangar would have facilitated, but we did not have anything for those businesses to come to Enid with. This hangar would provide an opportunity to entice larger businesses for aviation that would also have secondary gain to the airport in fuel sales and other income. I think this is a unique opportunity to own a facility which would have been acceptable to any of these 3 companies. I think this is a unique opportunity to help increase the industrial base at Woodring and to significantly improve one of Enid's largest economic assets. That's not a guarantee that it will pay out. But if we don't have the facility, it's a guarantee that those companies aren't going to come.
Are they not able to purchase it directly from Harold Hamm?
Well, they could, but we don't, the Yingling has already done what they wanted to do, so they're not coming back.
I think what
my point is it gives the opportunity in the future that we won't have if
somebody else owns it.
Yes.
we can leverage economic incentives more effectively when they are under our control.
I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Item 8.4. Consider a resolution with emergency authorizing the city attorney to levy against the tax rolls a judgment of the Workers' Compensation Court of the State of Oklahoma entered in favor of Russell W. Herring in the amount of $47,685, approving an agreement acknowledging such judgment, providing for the payment of such judgment in exchange for the city's promise to repay such judgment from collected tax levies. Andrea?
Mayor, Commissioners, this is a workers' compensation judgment entered against the city of Enid and in favor of Russell Herring. He was hurt back in 2006. His back was hurt, and he ended up having several surgeries. The Workers' Compensation Court has awarded him $47,685, and because it has to be paid within 20 days, which is less than what is allowed by our resolution, we have to do this as an emergency, and it would be levied on the tax rolls.
Move we approve.
A second.
Motion by Ben, second by Mike. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Move for an emergency.
Motion by Ben, second by Mike to approve an emergency. Please cast your vote. Item carries 7-0. Item 8.5. Consider payment of Pegasus relocation expenses up to $240,000. Yeah.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, you will remember from budget time in the general fund and general government, there were 2 items that were budgeted for Pegasus. One was the $185,000 contractual amount, and one was for the $240,000 relocation amount. This item just simply brings it back to authorize beginning to pay that, and city staff recommends that as they incur those expenses, they submit the bills to the city, and we pay them up to $240,000. That's all this item is doing. Any questions from me?
A couple of questions, Gerald. As I add up this piece of paper that appeared on our desks here immediately before the meeting, it looks to me like the total cost of relocation as estimated by Corbin's $357,454. That leaves a $117,000 deficit between this $240,000 and that number. Where's that money going to come from?
I think initially it was talked about maybe in a subsequent budget year, but it was never, that amount wasn't planned out of this year.
They're planning on moving in this year. I have a bit of an issue with this particular item. What I think I would suggest that we consider at least is, would it not be possible to, we've got to get Pegasus out of that building because we're going to knock it down here hopefully very soon, but to commit to spending what now sounds like will be $360,000 rather than $240 by the time we get them completely moved, rather than spending that money with somewhat of the future of Pegasus, at least as it currently is, in jeopardy in my mind. Maybe not in everyone's mind, but in my mind, the future is somewhat still up for discussion. Do we really want to spend that much money on moving someone that, you know, we may not? So I'm going to suggest that we at least consider, could we not rent some space even in that nonprofit center for 6 months, make it a temporary, and then when we get to the item about the contract with Pegasus, which I've already asked be pulled and reconsidered separately, that we maybe look at a 6-month contract and give us a little time to get into the Pegasus issue a little more. You know, Mayor, you assigned me to that board, which I am very happy to do, but I've only been to one meeting, and I have not even come close to getting my hands around exactly what direction Pegasus is going, where we're spending our money, who the clients are. I've asked for information about, you know, who exactly they're servicing. I do know that there's about 75 people from one of the local churches who have my phone number who have been calling me. So I know there's at least that interest. The Cowboy Church, I'll say publicly thanks to you for very nice messages on my answering machine. But I really don't have a handle yet on where we're going with Pegasus, and I hate to see us commit to this kind of an expenditure until we really get there. So something more temporary, if it would suit the commission, I think would be in our best interest.
David, I think part of your confusion there may be, and Corbin, who's here this evening, could certainly address this. I think this is a total remodel budget for this entire project. 200 and
it's unlikely
somewhere
I'm confused. You
somewhere
don't have
like
to read me the numbers, but
200 and something like $240,000.
My ability to evaluate this, but I can add.
Okay, but hold up here. $240,000 is being borne by Pegasus. A substantial part of this remodel project is not being paid by Pegasus, it's being paid by CDSA. There is a large common area of this building that, to accomplish some economy of scale, CDSA will be remodeling a portion of the, what I believe is outlined here as corridor, at the same time. This is not from Pegasus, this is from Corbin and Mertz, the architect. So what I think you're looking at is the budget for the entire project. Only $240,000 worth is actually Pegasus. So let's.
Well, and my understanding was that regardless of how much the whole thing costs, that what we were willing to put up was the $240,000.
Anything over and above would have to come from Pegasus is their
so
savings
this is
account.
all. But I want to make sure that this is all we're on the wire for, is the $240 that we agreed to.
Corbin, is that correct?
We do have some people signed up from Pegasus.
And I would like to say, you know, it may be a little, the future of Pegasus may be a little different in your mind and some others, but you know, in analyzing what a city does and doesn't do, you know, being in the hangar business, you know, maybe not. I know that there are a lot of our citizens, not everybody, but there are a lot of the citizens who do utilize Pegasus, and I've had a lot of people come out in high support of it. I haven't watched it. I don't have, you know, that service, but I do know that there are a lot of people that do. So I'm going to support their continuation, because they do serve a lot of people who are homebound, who use it to not only watch church, but watch these meetings and keep an eye on what's going on other than the newspaper. So
absolutely.
To say that it may not be around in 6 months.
That's not what I'm saying, and don't quote me about that in the paper, because I don't want 50,000 more phone calls. I'm not debating whether Pegasus is going to survive or not, and I'm not saying I want to can Pegasus. What I'm saying is, in its current form, it's a 1985 organization, and in a new form, more, I mean, they've already changed their webpage, and it's tremendously better. You can now access our commission meetings in full size on YouTube rather than on their little tiny picture in the corner. They've already made changes that I'm very impressed with. And in its new form, it may require half this much physical space. Are we going to need 36,000 square feet or not? We don't know, because they can do things with small cameras now instead of, I mean, I'm just saying we need some time before we commit to that money. I'm not saying we need to throw Pegasus out. And that debate, I don't want to have the debate with you about whether it's reasonable or not, because there are a lot of supporters. And that's not what this is about. This is about, I'm just asking for more time before we commit the city's funds to this issue to see where it's going to be in 6 months to a year.
And I also wanted to make it clear, too, that nobody has ever said anything about canning Pegasus or shutting Pegasus down. That has been misperceived or spun out of some other realm, because that's never been said. All we've ever questioned was how it's funded.
Well,
and if whether we're going to continue funding it at the same level. We've never said anything about shutting it down.
My concern is, we're right up against a deadline. We procrastinated on this as long as we possibly can, and actually, I think based on the information we had to begin with, the conference center would be under demolition right at the moment, and they're still there. We don't have time to not take some action to relocate them.
And we're under contract to move them, are we not?
Yes.
We have to move them.
Can we get
Go ahead.
I'd really like to know whether that number issue that David brought up is accurate. If we're in effect committing to a much bigger number out of Pegasus's coffers, that's certainly worth knowing. Before we go too much farther in this discussion, could we possibly get that issue addressed from the architect here, and architect or Wendy, either one of you folks may be able to answer. But my understanding is that CDSA is taking on some of the remodeling costs that will kind of accompany this area.
CDSA being the landlord.
Yes, the owner of the building, the nonprofit center.
Haven't even addressed that.
Sure.
Basically, we understand the $240,000, and that's what we're going to work with. If it comes down to reducing our space even more, we'll do that. We are very grateful for the $240,000, and we just want to get moved.
But ask that specific question first. That quarter amount isn't being borne by Pegasus, correct?
No. Sherry does want us to share in some of that cost.
Okay.
We'll negotiate that, but we do understand the $240,000 limit. We will manage that. If we have to, we will also contribute some of our equipment savings to help with the relocation.
Oh, yeah, there was something about some percentage of the public space being shared by Pegasus, but all we're committing to is 240.
Exactly.
No matter what it goes into.
Exactly. We wanted you to have just a line item expenditures. The first part here are the Pegasus expenditures right here. That's basically what we wanted you to see. We just gave you Corbin and Mertz total figures that they gave us this afternoon. So that's what that is.
Wendy, do you have that agreement with CDSA in writing?
The agreement won't come until we have the permanent facility agreed upon as well. That she will house us temporarily up in the upstairs area of the nonprofit center, only as long as we have the agreement for the permanent facility. So that's kind of where we are right now. We need to meet with her tomorrow to get this all worked out, but temporarily we'll be upstairs in the nonprofit center. It's a really, really small corridor, 1,800 square feet, but we'll just use that space as long as we have to. The permanent facility downstairs is half of the facility that we have now in the Cherokee Strip Conference Center. So what we're planning to do is downsize to just one smaller studio and possibly even purchase fewer studio cameras. Instead of 9, purchasing 4, and maybe purchasing fewer community producer cameras, downsizing accordingly to, according to what we can afford to do when the time comes. And we're hoping too that by the time we have all the money raised that we need for the capital equipment, that expenditures will come down because technical equipment does reduce in cost, and we'll have all the money we need to make the purchase all at once. So we won't be purchasing anything that won't work with the others, so it'll all be compatible. So we do have those plans in place. We also are planning to have a couple of fundraisers. We're going to do a talent show and appeal for donations at that time. We're also going to have a national film festival where people will pay to enter. This will also build good relationships with people who participate in the talent show. So when we do engage a person who could go out and do fundraising for us, which we're going to do, that person will have a relationship started with possible donors. So that's our plan now for becoming more self-sufficient as far as fundraising goes too. Any other questions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the $240,000 expenditure to relocate Pegasus.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, but we also have another person signed up to speak. Wendy, did you have anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Diane, help me with your last name. Levesque. Levesque? Okay.
Levesque. Je suis Jean Suzanne Levesque.
Give us your name again and your address, please.
1324 West Oak. Sorry, I'm across 3 different properties, all the way from 1308 to 1324, but 1324 is my residence. Okay, well, I have notes here as to why you should not just give everything that's required to move Pegasus. I am here to tell you, since you asked, thank you, what you're going to lose if you lose Pegasus, even in its current form. This is what Pegasus does. Pegasus is worth every penny, and a vote against any money. Actually, if you want to see Pegasus to upgrade, vote to reinstate all the cuts that have been made by this august body since cutting started, and you will see an improvement. I can guarantee you that. Anyway, of course, a vote against Pegasus of any sort, of any funding, would be a vote against sunlight on the meetings of this august body, which brings to mind the time y'all cut and run from the city council and went out of town somewhere. Now, what I've heard from my council lady here, representative, is that y'all was scared of your families and wanted to escape them or something of that sort.
I don't
But
believe
one
that was
thing I
ever
do know.
stated.
What?
And I don't believe that's on the agenda.
Well, this is what you're missing with Pegasus is the camera. And you missed it the time y'all cut and run out of town to do whatever philandering you were doing out of town. Okay, now, I do believe Ward 3, Ben Hessel brought that up too. Sunlight is important. A vote against any funding for Pegasus is a vote against production training. And I know some of our local college people over the summer or whatever, even our young people, participate in the video production training that Pegasus provides. And there's Chautauqua. Now, I know there are a few of you here that know me as a regular at Chautauqua. Pegasus carries Chautauqua, past and future. So a vote against any funding for Pegasus is a vote against education. And it's a vote against all our local musicians who show their wares and gives all those wonderful hotel people something to look at to showcase that Enid has, the talent we have, who will also be tuning into Channel 11 to see what else is going on in town. So a vote against any funding or even a raise for Pegasus is a vote against tourism. Okay, I mean, it's all nice you're going to build these hotels for people who want to come and visit Enid but wouldn't want to live here, but hey, if you cut Pegasus, they'll never know what else Enid has to offer. And of course, you're definitely anti-church if you don't provide church services for our shut-ins. All right? Now, Enid has grown. Enid is proud of all the progress it has made, and I tell you that Pegasus, in its current state, has been part of that growth. And without it, new people wouldn't know what else is going around town. They'd have to wait for the paper the next day, or at least with Pegasus, you can turn it on, there it is. Community announcements, community affairs, even you guys are on Pegasus. And I want to say, too, that unless this august body is offering to give every cable, everybody with a cable contract also internet, putting everything on YouTube is not an acceptable alternative because of the access issue. So, any vote against Pegasus is a vote against Enid. You would be anti-Enid. Defense rests.
We have a motion. Who made the motion?
I did.
Ron, second by Ben. Any further discussion? Would you like to read the?
So Angie, are you not signed up to talk about this? No.
Motion was to approve the $240,000 allocation for relocation expenses.
Okay, just like it's written. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-2. Next item is consent. Item 9.1, we are going to pull for further review by the City of Enid staff. We're going to pull item 9.5 at the request of Chief O'Rourke. And item 9.4, we are going to pull the Pegasus portion only for discussion this evening. Did I say that right?
I'll make a motion.
Just a second, Mike. We had a person sign up for 9.1, and since we have pulled that, we will delay that until 3 weeks from tonight.
She also signed up.
She's also signed up for 9.2.
Mayor, if I may ask one question, can we pull part of an item?
Well, sure.
I mean, 9.4 is, I'm just asking a procedural question.
You can pull portion of that, yes. If the consent items are approved as a whole, you'll be approving everything except for Pegasus, which will be voted on separately.
The way we've done it in the past.
Well, I know we've withdrawn items. I never remember, just pulling a portion of an item.
One option too is to have a discussion about Pegasus before voting on
The consent item.
items as a whole. And it is part of the
Okay.
It's clear now. We're pulling 9.1, 9.5, and the Pegasus portion for discussion on 9.4.
And we don't need to, do we need a motion to table 9.1 or anything like that? Andrea?
The Sunoco.
Seneca?
Yeah, I think you need to table it.
Okay. I move we table item 9.1.
Second.
Is that the correct procedure? Yes. Motion by Ben, second by Tammy. Further discussion? Please cast your vote.
And then
Motion carries 7-0.
does the same pertain to 9.5?
Yes, sir.
And that we need a motion to table it?
Or did that just get pulled?
That one was pulled by the presenter.
Okay.
Is that a no? Item 9.2. Somebody signed up to speak to item 9.2.
My copy's 9.6.
I will read 9.2, since we have somebody that wants to just say it's different. Item 9.2 says cancel a $30,560.42 encumbrance from the Oklahoma Department of Transportation remaining from the Southgate Road Improvement Project R-0409A. Renee Massengale, state your name and address, please.
My name's Renee Massengale. I live at 412 South Washington Street in Enid. The way I understood that is that money was set aside to pay the landowner and now the city wants to take that money back. That's how I understood it.
That's actually not correct. The entire amount of money on this particular item was not used, and the city did pay what was billed to it for this project. The remainder of it is excess money that needs to be returned to the coffers instead of being held up as encumbered money.
Because I don't always understand it, so I question it.
Thank you. Item 9 point, we don't need to read the remainder of them then.
Move we approve the remainder of the consent items.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Mike. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Move we approve the consent item 9.4 for Pegasus.
Second.
Have a motion by Ben, second by Ron. Further discussion? Please cast your vote.
No, there's further discussion.
Nice try, Mr. Mayor.
Whoa, on what item?
On Pegasus.
You're exactly right. We have discussion, David?
I guess it's the same concerns. If it's the commission's wishes that we just spent what I think is going to be $350,000 on moving Pegasus, it seems silly not to approve their contract at this point. But I would make the same objections again, that we're biting off a commitment that I think needs to be looked into to see what we can make of Pegasus. According to this contract, which I'm sure you all read completely from beginning to end, as I have, I'd say 80% of the requirements in the Pegasus contract are city-defined obligations. I mean, I'm a little amazed that this is basically a city video service for our benefit. We are requiring them to do the commission meetings. We require them to do all the city connection meetings. We require them to do the Enid public school meetings, school board meetings. I mean, the requirements in here are remarkable. And again, I would just like more time. I think approving this contract until we can see what the new 2013 Pegasus is going to look like and needs to be is just premature. But I will concede that now that we already spent the remodel money, we're sort of stuck with the contract.
Here's the other question too. If this is what they've been operating at, which is lower than what they operated at before, because they've been cut over the years, and we're asking them to come back new and improved, and I totally agree with you on that. I think that there needs to be some self-sufficiency there, and I've talked to Wendy about that too, that there need to be some more proactive things done on their side. But if we cut them further, I don't know how we're going to expect them to come back new and improved, if that makes sense. I may be talking in circles. But I agree that there needs to be some more self-sufficiency and that they need to be proactive in helping fund their entity completely. But I don't know that we can cut them off at the knees at this point and then expect them to do a better job.
We also have we do have certain ongoing obligations, and I think the time to revisit the long-term future of Pegasus, which we all hope evolves and changes over time. There is a time for that, but it's not now. I think we need to approach that at the tail end of our current obligations. We also, not when they are dangling under the deadline of being evicted by us. That doesn't seem fair.
Well, if we don't approve this, they cannot operate. Is that, I mean, they don't have the ability to pay payroll or do anything.
Well, the contract expired June 30th, so technically we're already beyond they are without a contract as we sit.
A 30-day grace period on their contract. Nothing.
Again, some of the conflicts that are in this contract are that, one of my stated objectives has been, let's make some of these departments help us out by generating what revenue they can. As I read through this, and I haven't had time to sit down with Andrea because I just got this contract, I don't think we can ask them to do that. I think they're prohibited from charging and generating money under this contract for providing services. And that's a revelation in the sense that we are backing them in a corner. And I'm the last guy who wants to be unfair to Pegasus, because, I mean, this is something I want to see go forward, not backwards. But when you look at Pegasus' budget, we're basically funding 3 salaries. That is all that $185,000 covers, plus the $1,000 a month that we require them to pay us back, the city, in rent for that building that they've been living in over there, which is completely inadequate. So it's just, I don't really have a positive solution to the dilemma that we're in here, except that it just feels bad that we're going to have to, I guarantee you we're going to revisit this in 12 months.
Well,
if you won't let me do it by January, after I've been on the board for a year and I've seen Pegasus work and we've gotten some more public input and we've spent all this money for this move now to build a studio that we don't know if we're really going to need or not, I guarantee you I'm going to bring this back up at the 12-month mark so that we're not at the end of the rope, has been suggested, where we can make a rational decision about where we want to go with this expenditure.
I think that's fair to revisit it then, but the thing is you guys came in at the end, you guys came in at the very beginning of the new budget year and asked us to not fund them all of it. I mean, they would be completely cut out, done now, right now, if we cut that. And I don't think that that's completely fair either. I think that your concerns are completely valid, but I don't think that we can just go and say, sorry, you can't have any more money, sorry, we're done. I think that we need to give them that year and see what happens. And if at the end of and I mean, we're going to go through the same process again in a year. So if at the end of that year and we don't see anything that we're happy with, then they got fair warning. They got a year to step it up.
Well, the city though has a lot of functions that don't produce any revenue. I mean, we have a lot of programs and functions that don't produce any revenue, and to single out certain ones and say, well, this one ought to be self-supporting, I think is unrealistic and unfair.
That is not what I said.
That's not what we're asking.
My attitude about Pegasus is that it has a very important role to probably the fastest growing segment of our society, and that's the older population. Those are most of the people that I heard from concerning, any changes we'd make in Pegasus, because they depend on Pegasus for a lot of things that they're not able to get out and see on their own. And, it's a very important part of their life, and I think we need to keep that in mind when we make these decisions.
But I don't think that we've ever asked them to become completely self-sufficient either. We've just asked them to be a little bit more proactive in assisting with their funding, because right now we're solely funding them.
Well, actually, Pegasus started out, though, being funded by the cable system. It was set up, the cable franchise was going.
But we're not obligated to do that.
And then the city decided to take the franchise fee, and that left cable, that kind of hung Pegasus out to dry. Which,
but right now
you can argue that until the cows come
But they're
home.
funded out of the general fund, essentially. I mean, and the thing, like I said, nobody's asking for them to completely just take over and run themselves. We're just asking them to be a little bit more, to assist us a little bit in that funding, and because there's no reason that they can't do that. I mean, I think Pegasus has great potential, and I have always been a supporter of Pegasus. And I think there are all kinds of number of things that I wish more people in the community would embrace it and get out and use it, because it's actually there for the community to use. They're not there to provide programming. They're there for the community to use to provide programming. And we have a very few, we have a small group of people that actually do that, and I would love to see them get the word out so that more people would embrace. I know they don't think it's a small group, but in the town of 50,000 people, compared to the number of people that actually go in and produce shows, it's not a large amount of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that watch this.
I know there are a lot of people that watch it, but I'm saying I think that we could get more community involvement, and I think there's a lot of potential there, and so I don't want to cut them off at the knees. I think that we need to give them a chance, and they do need to evolve. I don't think anybody questions that.
Well, to be clear, I'm not suggesting we cut them off. I think this contract could very easily be modified because of the way it's structured into basically a month-to-month agreement, and I would say let's do it for 6 months rather than dragging it out a whole year. That's.
And what's to say we can since we're at the end of their contract, why can't can we rewrite it? I mean, can we revisit it? And
we do have a motion and a second to approve it as is, but yes, it could be.
I mean, that's what I was asking for with the $240,000, and that's what I'm asking for with this contract, is let's just, I mean, if a year's what it takes, okay, I'm going to be here for 3.5 more, so whatever.
The way things move, a year is no time at all.
A year goes by really fast.
I prefer the 1 year. I prefer the 1 year.
So if we approve this, we're just approving the funding,
The
But not
180.
the contract, or the contract included in that? Is that all included?
All get together.
Whoa, whoa, tell me, say that again.
You're approving a 12-month contract with Pegasus.
And the one,
The funding of
185.
85.
With the current motion.
With what?
With the current motion, that is what would be approved.
Let's vote.
Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-1. We voted on all the consent items now, Linda?
Yep.
Item 10, we'll recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item 11, all of the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority are present. Item 12, the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting. Item 12.1, consider a resolution increasing the 2013-2014 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Municipal Authority in the amount of $539,707.27 for prior year encumbrances outstanding as of June 30, 2013. Gerald?
Yes, Mayor, this is a companion item to item 8.1. It just happens to be the encumbrances only in the Enid Municipal Authority that amount to $539,000. These were previously approved in a prior, well, last year, and we're rolling them over.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mike.
Second.
Second by Ron.
Let's bring up that 9.1 again.
Is Sunoco one of these?
No, Sunoco is not part of this one.
Further discussion? Hearing none, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 12.2, consider an agreement acknowledging and providing for the payment of the judgment of the Workers' Compensation Court of the State of Oklahoma entered in favor of Russell W. Herring. Andrea?
Mayor Commissioners, this is a companion item to item 8.4 and just completes the transaction of placing this judgment onto the tax.
Move we approve.
Move. Motion by Ben.
Second.
Second by Mike. Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 12.3, approval of claims in the amount of $1,017,201.25.
I'll make a motion to approve those claims.
Motion by Mike,
Second.
second by Tammy. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We will now adjourn to convene as the Enid, adjourn out of the Enid Municipal Authority into the Enid Economic Development Authority. All of the trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority are present. Item 15, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting. Item 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $5,622.79.
Make a motion to approve that one too.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Ben. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We'll now adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item 17 is public discussion. We have no one signed up. Item 18, we consider convening into executive session to discuss the purchase or appraisal of real property and to reconvene into regular session to take any necessary action.
Make a motion to convene into executive session.
Motion by Mike.
Second.
Second by Tammy. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.